We're going to call this the January 2017 meeting of Lenoir County Board of Education to order. We will recognize Mr. Harvey for the invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions based on the best interest of our young people. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Williams will present the agenda for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Submitted tonight is the agenda for your consideration and approval.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
All right, motion by Mr. Smith to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion on the agenda for this evening? We'll call it for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. The agenda is approved. The next item is the board chair comments. I just want to welcome everyone back after the break. I hope everyone had a restful holiday break, and as you probably figured out, we were back at school today. Some people were surprised, but I think everything went well. Also want to welcome our newest member again, Mr. Elijah Woods is with us tonight. He was sworn in at our last meeting. He has agreed to take on Garland's role in the facilities committee. So we're very appreciative for that, and we look forward for him serving on the board.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Also want to thank the board for my reelection as chairman last meeting. I think this is going to be an exciting year for Lenoir County Public Schools. I think there's a lot of big issues that are going to come up, and we're going to have to make some difficult but challenging decisions in the next year. I think it's probably worth, haven't made any comments in a while, so I'm going to take a few minutes to probably talk about our priorities and maybe what we need to look at this next year. Mr. Williams has made it clear to us that his first priority is instruction, that we need to get back to the basics on how we instruct our students. And I want to say publicly that I think that is exactly where we need to be. I support him completely in his move to get us back to instruction. I know Ms. Herring and Mr. Harvey are 100% behind that as well. The more I think about it, everything we do here at the board, we get caught up a lot of times talking about who's going to ride what bus, which we may end up doing tonight, or finances or other things, but all those things are make possible instruction. We get the kids to school, we feed them, nutrition, personnel, everybody's there to make sure that we have good quality educational instruction for our kids. So I am totally behind Superintendent Williams in that process. We need to be behind instruction, and that should be our core value. That should be our core priority as we go into the next year. Another thing that's going to come up this year is facilities. And I put these in order because I wanted to make a point about this. The point I've made to Mr. Williams and his staff, I think facilities are important too. But frankly, they're not as important as the work we're doing in instruction. And I think we have to have that priority set, that mindset going in, that yes, we need to efficiently operate our facilities, but instruction should be our first priority. As most of you know, for at least the last 2 years, we've been looking very closely at our facilities, what to do about them. For the last year, we've been working with our county commissioners on a committee to make some decisions about facilities. No decisions have been made at this point, but I can tell you if we don't reach some agreement or understanding with the county, probably in this budget cycle, we could be looking at a significant loss of local funding. We went through that 2 years ago. We had the discussions again last year, and it's not going to go away this year. The biggest challenge for the facilities committee is to find a way to use our resources efficiently while not undermining our first priority, which is instruction. So it's not all about, can we use our facilities the most efficient way? Frankly, a computer program could figure out the ideal occupancy of every one of our schools, the ideal makeup of every one of our schools, but that may not be what's best for kids, and that probably is not what's best for kids. I know the committee has pretty much got all the data out and will be meeting in the next couple of months to start to review options. So that is another big issue I think that'll be brought before the board this year. As long as we kind of keep in mind that the facilities are really just a means to instruction, then I think we're gonna be able to deal with that issue. The last issue I wanted to mention, and I think it's one that's going to come up relatively soon this year, our ILCPS, I still have trouble saying it, plan, with our technology plan that we've been entrenched in for a couple of years. This is coming up soon is the year for our first rollover of that plan. When we originally established that plan, we said, and it was made, I thought, very clear at that time, that we shouldn't go down this path if we weren't willing to sustain this program. That sustainability was the key to making this a plan that worked for our students versus just a plan where we went out and bought some technology. Those plans don't work. They've been tried everywhere. A one-time technology purchase is not going to work. We have to sustain this program, and it was built in that it would come back this year from the very beginning for a decision on whether we go forward to sustain this process. And I also want to point out to everyone, we've asked our administration and our staff to buy into this project, and I believe they have. I think that it's out there, it's being used in the classrooms. We've asked everyone to learn how to use this technology, and I think they've lived up to their side of the bargain. And I think this year the board's going to have to live up to its side of the bargain and make sure that we can sustain this program. And that is something we're going to have to tackle. I am concerned about the potential for more budget cuts from the state. Our situation with the legislature hasn't changed a whole lot in the last election. We have yet to see where they're going to put us. I think we could also see some changes from the federal government. In light of some of the new appointments, we may see changes in federal funding. So all of those are going to be challenges that we're going to have to face in the next year. I do feel like we have got a solid leadership team in Mr. Williams, Ms. Herring, and Mr. Harvey. And that if we keep our mind on instruction and doing what's best for the kids, that we can meet these challenges this year. But I think we've got a lot to look forward to this year. So, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Williams for his announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your kind words as well. I will echo what Chairman Sargent said. I hope that all of you had a wonderful holiday break with your family members and other loved ones. I hope that it was restful, relaxing, and safe for you, and that you're eager and ready to start back up. We did that first thing this morning. I had a very smooth start. I want to thank Mr. Mitchell and our transportation team. They don't have a bus garage to work out of now, but they're working remotely and doing a great job with that. I hope your child's bus arrived on time. Mine did. And everything ran smoothly today. I also want to thank our teachers, our teacher assistants, our cafeteria workers, bus drivers, and all of our staff members, custodians, and everybody on the team who made this smooth day and every smooth day happen. We have a great deal to be thankful for and proud of in this school system. Chief among them, our wonderful children that we serve, and our outstanding staff members and parents. We have the best staff members, students, and parents anywhere. I truly believe that. I'm optimistic about 2017. I am confident that it will indeed be our best school year ever, and I look forward to working with you and leading the school system in that effort. We have a few announcements tonight. First, I'm very pleased to announce that Gaston County Schools, if you know anybody in Gaston County, please thank them for us. But Gaston County Public Schools has a program called Nickels for Neighbors, and the kids raise money on an ongoing basis in the event that neighboring counties, school systems, municipalities, anyone in need might benefit from that. And the money comes in nickel by nickel, bucket by bucket, classroom by classroom. And we were notified right before Christmas. Help that comes at any time is good and it's welcome, but when it comes from children, to children, by other children, it's particularly special. And as I said to a reporter on that day, it is indeed a blessing, a true Christmas blessing, and we were thankful for that. But Gaston County Public Schools donated $5,450 to Lenore County Public Schools to be used to benefit our children in any way we see fit in the form of disaster relief, children impacted by Hurricane Matthew. And this money came in again. And we've been very, very fortunate, and there have been many companies donating to our school system, to our county, to Eastern North Carolina. But remember again, it becomes even more special when you realize that it was nickel by nickel and child by child for other children. So we thank the Gaston County Public Schools. We had a program ceremony in Goldsboro on the 21st of December, and at the Board of Education in Wayne County, in 4 different school systems, the public schools of Robeson County in Lumberton. They were a recipient earlier in the day, and 3 school systems met. Edgecombe County, Lenore County Public Schools, and Wayne County Public Schools met in Goldsboro at their central office, and we had a presentation ceremony, literally the big check that I'll present to our board chair and vice chair here tonight. And they talked about wanting to help us, and they easily could have sent a check in the mail, as their superintendent Jeffrey Booker said, but they wanted to come down and to visit Eastern North Carolina and to share a blessing from their children. So we were completely surprised by that and very much grateful for it. So at this time I'll ask for Mr. Sargent and Mr. Hill to come forward and we'll present the check.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Also on December 21st, 2016, sophomore class of scholars at East Carolina University in the College of Education donated school supplies to our school system with the help of, for the benefit of the children who were impacted by Hurricane Matthew. And these students at ECU took up money for this and donated supplies directly and brought them over to the school system. And again, young people helping other young people, and it really doesn't get better than that, folks. We've had a lot of help, but it seems to me that it means even more when it comes from the young. So we thank them for that. This past June, 2 Pink Hill Elementary School students won awards at the state level. I'll name them in a second. And then at the end of November, we received notification that they have been honored at the national level as well. So state and national winners we have among us tonight, and we want to recognize them. They were awarded the state level honors for a poster essay contest sponsored by the National Veteran Service Organization, AMVETS. Keaton Matthews, a 5th grader at Pink Hill Elementary School, and Eli Acock, a 6th grader at Woodington Middle School, both won first place in their division in the state and second place in their division at the national level. The national awards were announced again at the end of November. I will ask Keaton and Eli to come forward, and we have certificates that we'll present to you.
Ready? All right, 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 more. 1, 2, 3. Go.
Melissa Lynch, Digital Learning Instructional Coordinator and AIG Coordinator, that title's a mouthful, and Charles White, Technology Coordinator and Digital Learning Technical Coordinator for Lenoir County Public Schools, were selected by the Friday Institute to participate in the Eastern cohort of the 2016-2017 District Team for Digital Learning. This is a prestigious cohort. It's a very competitive process to get in. They didn't really set out to compete, but they were selected for their talents and what they had demonstrated. And they've distinguished themselves, and I've been told by a regional coordinator, Dr. Kathy Spencer was one, I'll name her name, and she was complimenting our folks on how technically proficient they are and how visionary they are in the area of digital leadership. And so they've distinguished themselves, they've made Lenoir County proud, and we certainly want to applaud their efforts tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. That is a year-long program. It will involve training on key topics such as leadership and culture, content and instruction, data and assessment, professional learning and human capacity, and technology and infrastructure. And some of the fruits of their labor you will see here tonight in the ILCPS update as we have presented what's actually happening with our children. And as Mr. Sargent alluded to earlier, that's where it really matters, what's happening in the classroom. If you have some free time for the remainder of this week, you would enjoy department. South Lenoir High School's men's basketball team will be playing a traveling Australian basketball team January 3rd, 2017, tomorrow night, Munn Gymnasium, with the JV game beginning at 4:30 p.m. and the varsity game following that. That's the second Australian team to play in Lenoir County this year. Kinston High School played the Australian team, so an unusual event, but one that we're proud to host and sponsor. So if you have time, we'll see you at Munn Gymnasium. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. Next section is public comment, and I understand we do not have anyone signed up tonight. Next, we'll move to the presentation portion of our agenda, our ILCPS update. Ms. Lynch,
I'll
who wants to introduce?
our folks tonight. So
Okay.
from Rochelle Middle School, we have Hannah Jimenez, who is the DLS, and she is going to speak about Rochelle's Tech Squad. And she has two students with her tonight, Ashanti Williams and Michaelan Kilpatrick. So I'll turn it over to Rochelle.
We need some assistance.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
Charles. That's why he wins the awards.
All right, so I'm Ms. Jimenez, the Digital Learning Specialist at Rochelle, and this is my RMS Tech Squad. We decided to create this group in order to build capacity within the students at Rochelle in learning more about the technology that they're using on a daily basis and how that can possibly influence their future. So I began with an application process. I created my own application based on opinions from teachers about what they would like to see in a group like this at our school. I handed out those applications and then I just waited for them to be turned in. Once I gathered them and read through everything, I selected the students, which you saw in the first photo. And I asked them this question: what do you want to see us do this year? And this is the list of things that they came up with. They wanted to deploy iPads to the rest of the school. They wanted to learn about the different apps that they were using in the classroom and how they could better manipulate them. They wanted to learn how to code and what coding was. And they wanted to be able to better help their teachers and other students to make learning flow smoothly in the classroom.
Okay, I'm Ashanti, and I'm part of the tech team. I'm in 8th grade, and I'll be telling you about how we deploy the iPads. We deploy iPads to 6th and 7th grade classrooms. What that basically means is that we split up in groups, and we go into classrooms, and we help our classmates set up their iPads, and if they forget like their email or passwords, we can help them figure those things out. And we just tell them about the iPad policies, like what you can and who you cannot do.
After okay. My name is Michaela. I'm also in 8th grade. After deployment, we divided into table groups with daily schedules. So basically, it was like groups everywhere, and every day we had different schedules. So what one team is doing this day, the other team wouldn't be doing. Like, as an example, so on Monday, this team would do the newsletter, and then on another day, they would do Code Academy, Spiro, Learn and Focus, or Blogswift.
I'll be talking about the newsletters. We create monthly newsletters with high interest sections for the students. We rotate who does the articles, and then she emails them out to students and staff. We also have the students vote for the teacher of the month. So basically, we send this newsletter out to inform our classmates and our staff about upcoming events, as far as like if we were having a field trip or sports, or if we were having a game as far as sports, as far as basketball, football, that will also help, and it was like an update.
Another thing I use is called Code Academy. I originally started with Khan Academy, so it's basically like a course to teach how to code. But I realized that I didn't like it, and I didn't think the kids were enjoying it either, so I switched to Code Academy, which teaches students how to manipulate HTML coding. And so what this does is it breaks the screen down into 3 different sections where it has instructions, code, and then what they're manipulating. So when they go into the code, they can actively see what's changing on the screen. And so it makes more sense to them that, oh, this one number here changes the color on this side, which is kind of something that's hard to get students to understand when they're just looking at a bunch of numbers.
Okay, so our school has a robot named Spiro. It's like a ball shape. So we use Spiro and Lightning Lab to code the robot through different mazes. We call it Spiro Golf. So we basically manipulate the times and speeds on the Spiro to make it go into the hole when we play Spiro Golf.
Every week I pick a learning focus to show and teach them, and so they can go into an app and create something based on guidelines that I provide, and if they do this successfully, they earn a badge. And so that's a picture of something that I have hung up in my wall. So once they successfully complete something, they earn a badge and it goes on the wall so they can see how they're progressing. And then Swift is another coding app that we used. It came out with the iOS 10 update. And Swift is actually Apple's language with coding. So not only are they learning HTML coding, but they're also specifically learning Apple's coding, which you wouldn't think there's a lot of difference, but there actually is. And I found that they don't even realize they're learning how to code because it's so much like a game, which is really awesome that they can get excited about that. So in Tech Squad, I'm exposing them to HTML coding through Code Academy and Swift through Swift Playgrounds. And then with the Sphero, I'm teaching them how to logically think through steps in order to get to the end solution. This is our website. We've got pictures and we've got different videos that we've made about the things that we're doing. So if you'd ever like to check in on what we're doing, we keep a blog on this website as well. And we'd love to have you stop by. Thank you guys.
I want to thank Rochelle and the students for coming and presenting. You guys did a great job. At this time, I'd like to introduce Maria Johnson, a kindergarten teacher at Banks, and Kristen Roman. They're both teachers. Ashley Hood is here. She's the DLS. And they have some students with them tonight, Emma Carney and Cooper Suggs.
We are going to talk to you about a flipped classroom lesson. Me and Kristen both have been trying to work with our students about individualizing their instruction, and we do this by using the e-backpack. We want to make sure that students can learn at their own pace, and Kristen is going to talk to you about our steps of
when we flip our classroom, we do it a lot in reading and math. And to start, we make a screencast by using QuickTime Player and reflecting our iPad. So what the students see is our actual iPad screen, and it shows them exactly what they need to do when they start. And then we have to upload that to YouTube, and then it's actually in their instructions in e-backpack when they get to their assignment.
And we work together, so sometimes she'll do a math lesson and I'll do a reading or a reading and math, and the students like to see another teacher teaching them on their iPads, and we think that's pretty cool. So we are going to let them show you how it would be if they were doing their lesson on their iPad.
And the best thing about this is it allows the students to work at their own pace. So like if they don't understand what we're saying, they can rewind, and then the other students who are ready are still continuing, and we can see exactly who's needing help.
Today, we're going to do ask by the letter N. To your red box, and we're going to ask by the letter S.
It sounds like your man's playing there. When it's small, but then when you say it's on her, but the video
And that's okay. So what we're doing is we're just explaining. First of all, we talk about every picture, what it is: McDonald's, a nut, a snake, a zebra, a squirrel, a necklace, sun, nest, and 7, just so they know. Then what do you do? What do we tell you how to do next? After you've watched your video, you go to your assignment.
And now what do we do?
And then whenever you see a picture, and if it has the McDonald's sign on it, you write an X because it doesn't start with S. And nuts doesn't start with S, so you write X over it too. The snake does, so you would say, I spy.
Show them how you do it. Cuter.
Find your tools.
Mark it.
And why'd you X that out?
Because it didn't start with S.
Okay, good. So what would you do for snake?
You want to do it now?
And what would you do for snake?
We click on the microphone and record it.
Okay, could you show us how? On snake.
pass by something that starts with the letter S.
And then they recall it, so they're listening to what they're saying and making sure that they say the sound and the picture to put it together. When they're finished, they automatically upload it to eBackpack and it automatically come to us and we can check it from our iPad. We like to do this just because while they're doing this and while they're using the video to play back, like if they need a slower pace or a faster pace, we can work with them one-on-one, or we can have an assignment waiting for them to finish while they're doing this, or we can just pull a small group to work on skills that they might need to work on. And through eBackpack, we also create other products and turn other products. I think the most important thing about this is, like, a lot of people think that kindergartners cannot use their iPad productively. They feel like they just play games and use apps, and that's not the truth. We create products. We have them take their own learning in their hands, and they do a great job with it. So it's very, very beneficial, and I hope that we get to keep it in the future.
Good job, thank you. Thank you.
Next item is the financial report. Mr. Adams.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
For your review is the December financial report, which presents the budget to actual year-to-date activity as of December 31st, 2016. This information is provided for all Lenore County Public School funds. Additionally, the report shows the current local expense fund balance as of December 31st. I would like to point out that the increase from November's report is approximately $225,000. The reason for that is the local funds that were used to cover the digital resources, the Apple lease payment. When the federal funds were received, they were refunded to the local expense. So that is a true picture of our December 31st current expense. At this time, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Adams tonight? All right, hope you're feeling like we made a good transition from Ms. Davis to you.
We have. It was a great opportunity to be able to work with her for a month and to get kind of caught up to speed, so to speak, on the operations.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, the budget calendar.
Thank you, Chairman. The budget calendar is used to assist in the timely preparation and approval of the 2017-18 Lenore County Board of Education budget. It establishes a timeline to guide the process to completion. I'd like to bring to your attention the dates that are in bold as being required by North Carolina general statutes. That are just some goals that we have to meet. Again, I'd be happy to discuss any questions or concerns as the calendar is presented.
Any questions for Mr. Adams on the budget calendar for this year? All right, you want to stay on for the financial statements and auditor's report?
Certainly be happy to introduce Mr. Davenport from Barrett Pearson Davenport to present the financial statements and audit report for 2016.
Thank you. Mr. Davenport, great to have you with us.
Thank you. So whenever I present audits, typically I follow something really cool like kindergartners playing on computers. At least Eric was able to bridge the gap into the boring stuff, so here we go. We recently completed the audit of the school system for the year ended June 30, 2016. I believe that some of the results may have been leaked already, that we had really good results particularly in our compliance audit. So I know Ms. Davis is no longer with us, but certainly, you know, she played a key role in that, as well as all the staff, from those in the finance department, federal programs, right on down the line into the schools. All were very helpful. We audit the records of each school. They send their books to our office, and we look at each one of them. So everyone within the school system that plays any role in finance has some part in the audit process. So we certainly would like to thank all those involved. And we were able to submit the audit in a timely manner, which was a little more challenging this year given the flooding and everyone being shut down for a couple of weeks. So that went well. The report's been submitted and approved by Local Government Commission. The results, as I stated, alluded to, were positive. We had what is known as an unmodified opinion, which is the opinion that you want. It basically means that as auditors, we feel the numbers reflected in the report are fairly presented. And as far as results of our operations, just, you know, from a local standpoint, that's what you manage primarily here, and probably have more interest in things like fund balance and so forth. In our current expense fund, which is called the general fund in these statements, and these items can be found on exhibits 3, 4, and 5 in your report, but current expense had a profit in the $160,000 range. You did budget for a loss, so to speak. You budgeted more expenses than you had revenues, but expenses came in under budget, so we actually had a profit. The other fund, which we call other restricted fund, again, we budgeted for a loss and actually had a loss there. So if you combine the two funds, we had a total decrease in local operating funds, but less than you budgeted. So those results are positive. The food service fund had another profitable year and was able to pay $250,000 in indirect costs to other funds to help support other activities, and that is a change from some prior years. The fund did not pay as much as it could have, but certainly was a significant amount that went toward other funds. As Chairman Sargent alluded to in his opening, state and federal funding sources are always iffy. Just to give you an example of this year compared to last, we had approximately a 1% decrease in overall funding if you exclude the food service. So very stagnant and actually a small decrease. The biggest portion of that decrease was your federal funding, which dropped about 5%. And that has trended down since, though, if you recall, the ARRA funding from a few years ago, it ended. So there's really no new funding sources out there at the federal level. And most school systems have seen that gradual decline in federal revenues. State revenues were consistent, as were most others. So it certainly is a bit of a challenge moving forward for school systems to fund all the programs that they desire to do. Your budget, you know, is in the $80 million range, and about 75% of that is salaries, which are basically fixed. So the rest of it, facilities and operations and so forth, is what you really have some flexibility with. The rest is pretty much set. So far as financial results go, we did decrease our fund balance in certain areas, but not as much as anticipated. From a compliance standpoint, we are required to audit every year at least 40% of federal revenues or expenditures and 40% of state expenditures. And this year, we chose Title I, Special Education, and State Public School Fund. State Public School Fund is always audited. we had no reportable findings in these areas. So that is the no findings that you've already been made aware of. And that's a really good accomplishment for the school system because, as I stated, you have approximately 80 million in total expenditures, and probably 65 or so of that is federal and state funding. And we looked at the majority of that for various compliance aspects. So that includes non-compliance with those requirements and internal control deficiencies that might arise. So we didn't report any. And certainly we always discuss with management opportunities to strengthen certain areas of internal control particularly, but nothing that we discussed or found during the audit rose to the level to report to the governing board. So again, very good results. This is the second year in a row that you've had no findings, and hopefully that trend will continue. I realize we have a transition. Ms. Davis has retired, and I certainly know, you know, it was good working with her over the years. She was very helpful to us, getting things in a timely manner. We have had the opportunity to work with Eric in the past as finance officer, so we look forward to going forward with that relationship and auditing the school board in the future. I think things are on the right track, certainly, and be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Davenport tonight? If you don't bring us any findings, you know, we can't come up with anything.
Nothing to talk about.
But we were very pleased to see that we are in compliance in all those areas. And I know the shortfall to the fund balance was budgeted.
Correct.
Which means this particular year we had planned to reduce our fund balance. And we may be doing that again for the next year or two, depending on how our funding goes. All right. Anyone else? Last chance.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Next item is a new policy involving employee wellness. Ms. Smith.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
I bring before you a new policy that is based around employee wellness. When we looked at the findings from last year's administrative review, one of the things that I was asked to do was to look at surrounding counties with what kind of policies they had as far as employee wellness. They do have employee wellness policies. Some of them even have employee wellness programs. However, this is just, when I met with the school health advisory committee, health advisory council, we felt like there was a need for this policy. The reason is because the school is not just about students, it's also about our employees. Our employees have a lot of stress on them. I know my cafeteria workers do. They work 2 jobs, not just one. So we feel like if we can give them some initiatives to kind of help with the stress or help with nutrition education, that could help us also as supervisors in the long run. Less absenteeism, helping out with the stress level as well. So this is why this policy has come into play. And like I said, it is around nutrition education, physical activity initiatives, which are all voluntary, and healthy eating, medical benefits to wellness. We have already started an initiative, New Year, New You. We are doing a step challenge. And that means that you put your pedometer on and you walk around and you put down on your calendar how many steps you have taken. And for me, I like to park my car further away. So that way I have to get to my car and I have to walk a little bit further. So for me, that's kind of my starting point. But then I found myself in the mall the other day, walking around. So it's getting better, but our cafeteria workers, our bus workers, they need that too. They like that stress relief. So actually, we have all of our cafeterias, except for 2, that signed up. All of our cafeteria workers they have already started talking about taking their break and walking. So it's pretty exciting. They're all excited about it, but it's a few small steps in the right direction. So that's kind of where this came from. Part of the policy is also that we would send out surveys to our employees as a measurement. Because that was very important with the administrative review, is that we have some kind of measurement. So what are their needs? What do they need? What would help them? So that's pretty much where we are, and then we would also give an annual report, which would be in conjunction with the student wellness policy. Okay. Anyone have any questions?
So just every 3 months, it says here, SHAC is going to make some type of report to the board
Yes,
as to how your
sir.
initiatives are going.
Yes, that's also what the student wellness policy also states. So we would be giving a full report on both, like the things that we have done, what kind of, like I'm looking at doing nutrition education more in the schools. So that would be under student wellness. And then we could also do a flyer or something out to our employees for nutrition education. So we're looking at taking small steps. We're not looking at doing anything drastic, but some things that have been mentioned is, we could have done flu shots, to kind of help with that, things like that, that would kind of, be something that would be accessible, but on a voluntary basis.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Smith? This is just on for a first reading. I assume this is going to come back before us at our next meeting.
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Mr. Williams, if you want to introduce this
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
set of policy revisions.
Right. Tonight, we have a set of policies submitted for your consideration with potential action to be taken at a subsequent meeting. This is from the North Carolina School Boards Association, from our subscription with them, where they, on an ongoing basis, review policies and suggest changes to us based largely, in this case, on legislative changes.
All right, any questions for Mr. Williams at this point? All right, we'll move to the action portion of the agenda. The first item is compensation for maintenance employees. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board recalls, in November, I presented to you the possibility of providing additional compensation for maintenance workers. I submitted the reclassification of those jobs and the DEI suggested salary table. We're asking tonight for the board to consider its 3 options and take action on the agenda item. As a reminder, the board's options are to take no action to reclassify jobs to match suggested DPI tables, to reclassify the job to match the suggested table at 100%, or to reclassify the job to match the DPI suggested table at 50%. Mr. Woods asked me to inquire surrounding counties. Mr. Woods, I found that Duplin County, Wayne County, Pitt County, and Greene all are at or above the suggested DPI table, and Jones is headed in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Questions for Mr. Harvey on his presentation? Looks like the total cost for full implementation be about $114,000.
Yes, sir, and that will be a recurring expense.
That come out of local?
Have to.
Yeah.
So that's a reoccurring.
And this did go to our committee, with board members sitting on that committee, and Mr. Harvey and I were on that committee as well.
If I remember right, the committee's recommendation was the third option. that you presented to do a 50% increase immediately, halfway to the DPI schedule, and then consider implementing it fully in the next budget year. Any other questions for Mr. Harvey, or we'll entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt recommendation 3, which will reclassify the jobs to match the suggested DPI salary schedule at 50% immediately and to research the possibility in the next budget year for full implementation.
Second.
All right, second. Motion by Mr. Anderson to go with the third option, second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the motion? All right, having no discussion, we will call it for a vote. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All right, it passes unanimously.
I want to say, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that Mr. Harvey and I met with the maintenance team the week we got out for Christmas, and I want to say on behalf of the maintenance team, and I know Mr. Harvey echoes that as well, Mr. Outlaw is here, our maintenance director. They're certainly appreciative of your recognizing the need to move forward in this area, and they're greatly appreciative of this. So thank you.
Next item is the out-of-district transportation policy.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Again, a policy committee convened in November to discuss the out-of-district transportation and the fiscal impact of ending transportation of out-of-district riders. The committee submits options to the board for consideration and recommends that policy 6300, goals of student transportation services, be revised. The recommended policy revision is attached in your documents. The change to policy 6300 changes are at the bottom. And it states that except as otherwise provided in board policies, the board will not provide school transportation services for students residing outside of their designated school assignment areas, except as noted below and subject to the following priority. 1, students attending school-specific academic programs which is not offered at their designated home school or school. 2, students who are children of current Lenore County Public Schools employees. And 3, students who apply and are accepted on a first-come, first-served basis to use existing available transportation seating within the bus routes being used for in-district transportation of students. Those 3 items are changes to the current policy 6300. We're asking tonight for your consideration to adopt the revised policy 6300.
Mr. Chair, may I ask for one clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
When the board talked about this at your last meeting, I believe that there was some students of current employees who were provided transportation, not necessarily to and from their home, but it was to and from their from where their parent worked.
After school programs.
Right, right. And I think with the first one as well, with the academic programs, there were some students who were provided transportation, again, on existing bus routes to the extent that they're available. So I just wanted to point out that it appears that the way that this is written is that the only point 3 is really related strictly to or limited to existing bus routes and availability, and the first 2 as written, don't appear to be subject to.
And I believe that's accurate. I think that was the intent of the committee, is the first 2 are not limited by existing bus seats. And I think that was traditionally what the school system had done. We've always provided transportation for students attending a school-specific academic program not offered at their school.
Like the IB program, and it used to be Project Lead the Way before we had it at all 3 schools, early college and alternative program.
And we've always done it for our employees. Children have been able to use transportation. And that was not limited to available students. It's the number 3 that I think really addresses the issue that had come before the board. I'd also point out it is a priority list, so that if there is limitation on seating, number 1 will go first, and they'll have first priority. Number 2 would have second priority, and then number 3 would have third priority.
is the practice now with 1 and 2, like if the student is no longer in that academic program, but still at that school?
No, the student would have to be, currently, the current process is says that the student has to be enrolled in that program.
And I think if you recall from the last meeting, I'm sure everyone remembers, but for maybe the general public who's looking at this the first time, the funding for transportation is largely based on occupancy and use. So it's to the benefit of the school system financially to fill otherwise empty seats on existing bus routes. That helps them maintain their efficiency rating at a high level and get full funding to run our transportation department, which is essential to our operation.
1 and 2 are pretty much self-explanatory. Number 3, would there need to be a process by which you determine first come, first serve?
Yes.
Certainly.
Have to answer all the questions, who, what, when, where, how, and why.
And I think the intent was to leave that process to the administration.
They have to apply for a
Determine.
transfer each year, and we will work out a systematic approach to make sure that it is first come, first serve, and that it's done annually. It has to be done each year.
I think the main thing the committee wanted is why we said first come, first serve, is we just wanted a fair mechanism for determining who got the seats. That there would be some logical procedure to put that in place.
Mr. Hill, if it addresses your issue too, you can add an additional sentence there that says the superintendent shall adopt procedures to help establish the administration of this transportation, of this provision.
Okay. But wouldn't there something, doesn't they usually need to have something there that actually, specifies that administration would have some kind of procedures?
If you want to make sure that there are procedures written down, you'd want to include that. So if that's important to you, you can certainly add that to the suggested language. The superintendent shall adopt some written procedures for the implementation of this provision.
Okay. Well, you have to have some system, don't you? You'll have chaos.
We do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do. Because the need for those seats or the desire for those seats is likely to exceed availability, which it has in these de facto cases in the past. So we certainly would do that.
So to add that language, do we need, the motion need to be made with provision to add in the language, or does it need to come back with the language already added before we vote on it?
And you can add it with the language as amended.
Add it as part of your motion.
Yeah.
The language that I had as suggested was the superintendent shall adopt written procedures to administer this provision, and that would be added to paragraph 3.
Can you repeat that, please?
The superintendent shall adopt written procedures to administer this provision. Was that? Go ahead.
Well, before you do that, so one more question, Mr. Mitchell. So do you think having this in place will help solve some of the issues that we've been having and not lose any of the funding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, we'll entertain a
Who's gonna
motion.
make it? I move that we accept the provision, the policy from the committee with the addition of number 4.
All right, so that's a motion to adopt policy code, the amendment to policy code 6300 with the addition to paragraph number 3 at the end that the superintendent shall adopt written procedures to administer this provision. Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, motion made by Mr. Hill,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion on the policy? All right, we'll call it for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. It passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for your work on this. I know you have gone through a lot of trouble and looked at a lot of numbers for the policy committee so that we could try to get this straight. and we appreciate your work on that. Next item, school improvement plans. Ms. Herring.
Thank you, Chairman. The board was presented with a snapshot of the school improvement plans from NC STAR of the December board meeting. After review of the school's indicators and assigned tasks for each indicator, the board is asked to take action at this meeting to accept all 17 plans.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Herring on the school improvement plans?
I move we adopt the school's plans.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Anderson. Was that a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hill. Any further discussion of the 17 school improvement plans? These are required to be approved and submitted to the state.
Do this week.
All right. I have no further discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, they are approved. Thank you, Ms. Herring,
Thank you.
for your work on those. Next item is out-of-state field trips. Looks
Yes,
like we've
sir.
got one to LaGrange,
Mr. Chairman, we just
Myrtle
have
Beach.
one. Myrtle Beach. The fifth grade class at LaGrange Elementary would like to travel to Myrtle Beach on March 22nd via charter bus to the Pirates Voyage and Ripley's Aquarium. We ask that the board review that and approve the trip for LaGrange Elementary.
Motion to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hill, second by Mr. King. All in favor of approving the out-of-state school trip, raise your right hand. It's approved unanimously. We'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that Lenore County Board of Education go to closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee.
All right, motion made by Mr. Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods. All in favor going into closed session, raise your right hand. We are now in closed session. Thank you. All right, we are back in open session. We'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Move to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor of approving the personnel report with the addendum, raise your right hand. All right, it is approved. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
All right, motion by Mr. Anderson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods. All in favor, raise your right hand. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much.